What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the Poppin' Curbs podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a touchy subject. Meet and greets. Paid meet and greets, free meet and greets. Where did they come from? Is it out of control? Should you do them? I want to talk about the band's perspective. I want to talk about my perspective. Perhaps your expectations if you go into these. I just find it a fascinating subject. Something that I support. I've done a ton of these. I typically love them. Thinking back, I don't have too many negative experiences or times I came out of them super bummed. But the reason that this popped in my head is I was listening to Mike Herrera's podcast last week, Mike of MXPX, and I feel like we got into this with my interview with Tom Wisniewski, their guitarist, but MXPX does a free meet and greet after the shows, typically when they can, which is admirable. Like no band I can think of at their level does that. And I greatly appreciate it because like a lot of you, I would love to say hey to bands I love and take a picture and get something signed. Like to me, that's the raddest shit ever. And they do a post-show meet and greet. And there was a caller who called into his podcast and just ripped him a new one on how it went and more or less saying that Mike seemed disinterested, looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, didn't go how he wanted to, and just was livid about it. And I'm not here to rip the dude because obviously he felt that way for, whatever reason, and his feelings are his. Who am I to say whether you should feel a certain way coming out of an experience? That's not the point of this. But it really made me think about, okay, from a fan's perspective going into these, if you've never done them, or maybe if you've done 50, what should you expect? And what do we want of these artists? And then the flip side of that, you have to think about the band's perspective. And I know, like, if this is your first meet and greet, or maybe if you're super young and kind of naive about the music industry or how things work, you might not even think about that. Believe me, I wish I could go back to a point in time where I just knew nothing about anything in the world. It's a great feeling. And you don't know it until it's too late that it's past you. But that example with MXPX, it was really making me think about really the band's perspective, the history of these, what I feel like they should include, and really what I think is fair. And I would love to hear your opinion on these. I might end up opening a second podcast to this, a follow-up episode to where you can send in your experiences, both positive and negative, because I just like hearing stories from people about meeting artists, that type of thing. And I'd be curious to hear your take on it, because I don't think they're bad. I just think you have to realize that at the end of the day, it is a transaction, but transactions are not always bad. If you buy a $4 piece of pizza that you love, that's a good transaction. There's nothing wrong with that. So we will get to that once we sort of start talking through, I guess, people's perspectives of these, because it's kind of fascinating. There's people who are down for it. There's people who are like, that is disgusting and gross, even from the fans' perspective and even from bands' perspectives. You shouldn't charge for that, etc. So we're going to dive into meet and greets today. I think really to start, we kind of have to go back and just think about meeting somebody you want to meet in general and kind of the history of it. Because when I think back to when I first started attending shows, late 90s, early 2000s, I don't recall this VIP stuff being like damn near the main selling point in your face. When I think back to that time period, basically the only way you could meet a band was running into them before the show. Maybe you got there super early, maybe you saw them walking around town, and that's a natural interaction. Obviously, a lot of folks would prefer that. You'll have people get really mad at you for paying and saying, well, you should just meet them at a coffee shop before the show. And it's like, yeah, well, good luck with that. Have fun, take your chances. But traditionally, the old way would be to run into somebody either after the show, before the show. And then outside of that, I mean, thinking back to late 90s, really the only time that I saw people meeting bands or getting quote unquote VIP experiences, it was like radio contest winners, or like if your friend's uncle worked for the band. It wasn't really a thing. And as I was thinking about this episode, it was really kind of fascinating in my mind to think about, okay, when did that shift? Because now it is so in your face, it's almost gross to some extent when you start getting into thousands and thousands of dollars for these. That's where I draw the line. We'll get into it. I mean, I'm down to support bands. I love supporting, especially smaller, medium-sized bands where this money goes a long way. When you get to a certain level, and we'll hit on this with the band's perspective, and you're charging $5,000-$10,000 for this, that's where I personally start to have, and I don't know if it's an ethical boundary. I just think it's, I don't know, kind of gross. But at the same time, if you've got that money to shell out, and if you're that famous to where that's what it takes, or that's what your time is worth, I kind of get it. Who am I to knock it? And I'm sure the people coming out of that experience are probably happy with it, probably have a lifetime memory. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I do think at this point in time, it's kind of out of control. I saw the other day, there was a WWE WrestleMania thing where it was like, make pasta with it didn't even name the wrestler. It was like a pasta making session for literally $10,000. And I'm like, oh my soul. What the fuck are we doing with our life? Here we go. Make pasta with Poppin', exclusive to my Patreon, $27.99. We can make some spaghetti. It's like, holy shit, what is happening with the world? But I'll tell you what it is. It's money and profit and greed. And when the money actually goes to the artist or the band and it helps, I don't mind. When it's just a matter of pure greed and exploitation at that point, that's where it starts to get a little bit weird to me. But I don't know. We'll talk about it. But traditionally, the old way was to hang around the venue, hope you run into somebody, or, I don't know, win a radio contest, hope you know somebody in the band, that type of thing. I mean, maybe the bands would be at merch, at like a festival or like a Warped Tour. I mean, even thinking back to Blink, Blink in the late 90s was hanging out at their own merch booth at Warped Tour. So it just kind of varied. But there was a certain point in time where I recall probably 2006-ish, 2005-ish, I personally recall seeing VIP, at least from the venue's perspective. And that's where I started noticing, okay, when I would go to buy tickets, now there's VIP parking and early entry or private access to the bar. Now, I couldn't afford that. I wasn't paying for that, but I just started to notice it. And it's one of those things where even when I've tried looking it up, preparing for this episode, I would love to know who was the first band that started this and when. There's got to be somebody who was doing this earlier. I just don't know. I just know there was a shift probably in the early 2000s from my perspective of where I really started noticing this. And when you think back to, I guess, just artists and sales in general, it's really when stuff started shifting towards just basically everybody was downloading everything for free off of Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire. Nobody's buying CDs. So it kind of makes sense that somebody, probably from a management perspective or promoter, you're trying to figure out other ways for bands to make money. So it makes sense. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I want bands to be able to make a living doing what they love. And so at some point that started shifting into, okay, we can offer VIP experiences for X amount of money. At the time, probably 50 to $100 by the time 2008 rolls around. 2010-ish, I feel like, is when I started noticing them, because I feel like Blink did some around the reunion tour. And that's when I really started noticing, like, oh, okay, that looks rad, and I don't have money for that. And there's a shift there where all of a sudden that door is open and people realize, oh, you can make money before the show. It doesn't have to just be via ticket sales or praying people buy t-shirts. You can actually make money off of fans before. And then from the fans' perspective, it's not always a bad thing because you're opening up the door for excess. And I think that's what a lot of fans think is awesome or unique or makes them feel special. And it gives you a good, warm, fuzzy feeling. Now, to me, I do think there's a threshold there where there's expectations involved of what it should entail. You know, to me, like if you're going to do a VIP, I feel like at absolute minimum, you should be able to meet the band in some capacity. In today's world, you need to be able to get a picture. And then I think in a perfect world, I personally want something signed. A lot of times I would prefer to have my favorite album signed as opposed to like a photo op or something. And I know I'm rare on that side of things, but that's just me. So I don't think from a concept perspective, paying to meet people is that bad. I really don't. I mean, I've done quite a few of these. I think at the end of the day, 99% of these I've left stoked, happy, fulfilled. But let's talk about the band's perspective on these a little bit, because I think it's important to understand where the band is coming from on these before we get to our feelings, before we get all up in our feelings about these. So from a band's perspective, it's kind of fascinating when you think about, let's just start with a small band. Say you start a band today and it's you, two of your homies, you make some music, you're playing a couple gigs. You are just starting out praying that anybody will even listen to your tune, much less show up to your show. At that point in time with your band, you can't charge for VIP. You're begging for fans. You need to be handing out stickers, flyers, giving away your music, doing every single thing you can to promote yourself, promote your band, and try to start building a fan base. And before you even get to that, there's just so much that goes into being a band. It's like you have to have talent. You have to be able to write songs. You all have to be able to play your instruments. You have to be able to record those. In theory, it's good. It's usually not. You have to hope that people like it. Then you have to distribute it. Then you have to start playing gigs, which is probably the most important thing. Like when you talk to bands and when you talk to bands that have made it, a lot of them started off playing to nobody at bars over and over and over and over and over. I mean, years, until you finally get everything down and good enough to where you're ready. It's a natural progression. I mean, it's kind of like, I liken things to sports a lot. It's like you're starting in the minor leagues. You got to work your way up. And nothing's going to be handed to you. And there's really no better way to do it than just the good old-fashioned way of playing, practicing, and playing gigs, even if nobody's there. Remember, Blink's first gig, it's literally like the dude sweeping that's watching. That's it. So you always kind of have to think about that. You know, if you're younger, starting a band or just whatever, I think always keeping that in mind is you have to start somewhere. But for the sake of this, it's like, yeah, nobody is going to be paying you for VIP when you're starting out. Now, once you start growing a little bit, you know, say you're starting to get to 300, 500 cap rooms. At that point in time, I mean, you're probably still not in the world of charging for a VIP. Now, at that point in time, if it was me, I'd be hanging out at merch. I'd be talking to every fan. I'd be doing everything I could to get my band's name out there, forming authentic relationships with the fans, because that stuff sticks with people. And I know some people, like if you're an asshole about it or you just don't want to meet people, I get it, you know, to some extent, but then don't expect that love to come back. I mean, whatever you put out there is going to come back to you, is the way I put it. Like if a band's hanging out at merch after a gig and I come up, I say, what's up? Feel good about supporting them, buying a t-shirt, saying, hey, it's going to make me think about that band a little bit more the next time they release something. I mean, that's just the world we live in from my perspective. There's a good example of that for me, Arm's Length, band I love. So I saw them open for Heart Attack Man, probably a 300 cap venue, tiny. And after the show, They were approachable. I met Alan, their lead singer, said hey, bought the album, had him sign it. Because of that, because they were kind to me, I will continue to go out of my way to support them every chance I get. So it's just little stuff like that, especially when you're starting out. You really need to be doing that. And so that's a world where you don't have paying fans, paying extra for VIP or extra shit. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Once you get a little bit past that, this is where it starts to get really interesting. So say you're starting to play to like 1,000 cap, 2,000 cap venues. Okay, you're able to make a living, you're touring, you've been grinding, you've probably been doing DIY the past few years, and then you start to get to a point where it's like, okay, now we have a little bit of a fan base, we can tour, we're making some sort of money on this, probably not a ton, but you're getting by doing what you love. And then you start to get to the point of where it's like, okay, should we do VIP? Could we do VIP? What would it include? What would the price range be? And what I find about this is in this kind of tier of level of band, a lot of bands don't want to charge for VIP, which I get. That in and of itself is a valid point. I know bands much larger than this who don't want to charge people to meet them. And I think at a surface level, that's a pretty nice thing to say and good way to feel. I mean, I would never want to charge someone like $10 to come up to me and talk to me. That's kind of stupid. My thought on this level is I want your band to succeed and make money. At the end of the day, I want to support you doing what you love. So if I was in a band at this level and you have anybody willing to pay for VIP, I think what makes sense at that point is more or less the cost of VIP should just cover basically like the extra cool shit they're getting. So I feel like if you're in a band that's kind of in this window, you probably are charging between say 50 to 75 bucks for VIP. And I think it needs to include meeting you, a cool signed poster, souvenir, or something. And if paying for them to meet you bothers you, then that's where in your mind, at least just make that cost cover the shit that comes with it, if that makes sense. Because I think you're foolish to some extent to leave this money off the table. And I know from the fans' perspective, we're getting kind of into some of this, but you have to think about you're a band, you're driving all night in a van, you're pulling up to a city, you're hoping you come away with enough money to make a living. And if you're able to have, even if it's 25 to 50 extra fans who love your band and want to say hey and want to meet you and are happy to throw down 50 bucks for like a sound check or a meet and greet, a formal meet and greet. I mean, if you do the math there, say 50 fans are willing to pay 50 bucks, that's an extra 2,500 bucks a day for what could be basically 45 minutes of your time, and you're already at the venue. So obviously that's got to be split and everybody takes their cut. But I mean, even if it's an extra 200 bucks and you're a band maybe taking home 500 bucks to 1,000 bucks per person per gig or something, and that may be high, it adds up. And I feel like it's worth it at minimum just to like say hey to your most hardcore fans. Now, again, I understand if you don't want to charge people to meet you, and you have that right. But I think at this point in time, if there are fans out there who are willing to throw down and support you and get a rad experience out of it in a guaranteed meet and greet formal setting, I think it makes sense. Now, that's me. If you're in a band at this level and you think that's gross, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how you are maneuvering it. Now, obviously, if you're charging 500 bucks at this level, it's kind of fucked up and it's not going to do very well. But to me, this is kind of the sweet spot of bands that I would love to support and do this for, because I know that money goes a long way. And that's another thing about VIP that's really important you have to think about is a lot of times the VIP money is more directly to the band than even the ticket sales or the merch. And that's part of why these things have just blown up, and damn near every band has them, because yeah, it's important and the money goes a long way. Now there's still going to be splits involved. You're still going to be paying perhaps VIP people to run it, that type of thing. But really, I mean, at that level, I am more than happy to pay a fair amount to guarantee a meeting and help support what's probably like a fairly upcoming band at that point in time. Now, where things start to get interesting is that next level. I need to like formally name these levels, but I don't have great names for them right now, other than just like small, medium, large, and then just like crazy superstardom. So for a larger band, let's say all of a sudden you've been grinding for years and you're into 2,500 to 5,000 cap venues, big jump. Now here's where you're going to have to make a decision for your band on, do you want to do these? Because you probably don't have to at this point in time. And this is where things start to get interesting. I still personally think if you're able to do these, you're already out on tour. You're already at the fucking venue or near the venue. So I think if you're in a band and you're able to give fans a rad experience, or even just some sick merch and the ability to say hey before the show or something, I still think you should absolutely have some sort of quote unquote VIP. I just think it's such easy money. I hate to put it that way, but it's just such easy money that can help support you. And I want bands I love to make money. I want artists I support to make money. I want incredibly talented folks to be able to make a comfortable living doing what they do, because they are so unique, and I wish them nothing but a stupid amount of fame and wealth or whatever they want, when you get to some of this. And the reality is, for 98% of people, that's not the case. So when you have quote unquote working class artists, I mean, even if you're selling 2,000 cap rooms, I mean, I know bands that are selling out venues like this who are not balling out of control. So even just an extra $300-400 per person per day, I mean, it adds up. And at the end of the day, it helps them and their families while they're away from their families out on tour. So it's kind of interesting, because once you get to this level, most bands I know are still doing it, and there's still artist involvement. And that's one of the things for me that when you get into expectations of these, we'll hit on, it's like, I want to meet the band. Like, I'll throw down 50 to probably $150 if it's a band I love, but I want to meet the band. So it's like, if you're putting these together, at least say hey to the fans. Like, to me, you need to say hey. There needs to be a photo op at this point in time. You need to be able to at least get like a signed poster or like a signed item. But when you're in this tier of band, it's going to come down to what you want to do. And for the most part, I still see most bands at this level offering some sort of VIP. And for the most part, there is still artist engagement. Now, where things get really crazy is once you get to the level of where you're just massive and things are out of control and you're in stadiums and arenas, this is where it's fascinating, because those bands at that level, they absolutely do not have to do these. And at that point, a lot of them have been doing it so long that it's like, I hate to say it, but you may not want to. And this is where you really have to think about the band's perspective on this stuff. And I know that's hard, because it's one of those things where you don't know until you've been there, unless you've been there. And if you've been grinding and meeting fans, and you've put in your time, and you've been on the road, and then all of a sudden you finally made it, you get to a level of fame where honestly things can get sketchy and weird. I mean, this is where you probably have, I mean, if you talk about like the highest levels, I mean, you've got stalkers, you've got people, tons of people waiting for you outside the venue, waiting for you outside the hotel. It gets weird. And at that point, you start to find that a lot of bands don't have an artist interaction with their meet and greets. And to me, that's where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm not paying 150 to, I mean, it's like $400 some of these days for like a VIP lounge, or like a VIP host. So I don't know. It's weird on these. And the flip side of it though is like, once you're at that level, from the band's perspective, it's like your time becomes more valuable. You can charge whatever you want, really. I mean, yeah, I think for the most part, if you run into these people on the street or at Starbucks, like most people are pretty cool about like saying what's up, taking a selfie or whatever. But when you get to this level and the actual artist meet and greets start to become like out of control pricing wise, that's where to me, I'm just kind of like, gosh, I know I'm not in that market. But at the same time, let's say you're Metallica, and because I just saw these, like this is a good example of what I personally think is just like, oh my gosh. I saw the other day, because Metallica's playing the Vegas Sphere or whatever, and I saw that they had some sort of meet and greet VIP experience, and I feel like it was between like $3,500 and $5,000 from what I've seen, and I don't think those can be resold. Let's just say on the cheap side, it's $3,000. My understanding is half the band isn't there. James never goes. I don't know the exact reasoning why. You don't know exactly who you're going to meet. So to me, I'm just like, I would never personally throw down $3,000 to meet half of Metallica. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, even when Travis did his, I mean, it was $1,000 and I couldn't throw down a G to meet Travis. Now, if you have the money, here's the weird part is for folks who can throw down like that, everybody I talked to had like the best day ever at that Travis meet and greet. So I don't knock that. If you've got the money and these people and this band means enough to you and it's going to be the coolest fucking day you've ever had, paying $3,000 to meet probably Lars and maybe Kirk. I don't know who even comes out to that. I mean, do you? We'll get into that a little bit later on like, okay, I'm not here to knock anybody who's spending their hard-earned money on whatever the fuck they want to go do these. My point of this is when you get to that level, it's kind of fascinating to see how the landscape has changed on, okay, you're not super accessible. It's going to be extremely difficult to run into these people before or after. A lot of them probably have security or stay hidden. Will run from fans intentionally. And I get it because shit gets weird. So at that point, I mean, obviously it's up to the band and the band management on if they even want to offer these, what it even includes. I think the trend that we see now a lot is basically some sort of like VIP lounge, early entry, early access to merch, that kind of thing, which to me, I'm personally not shelling out hundreds of dollars to have the grand honor of a fucking drink token and standing in the pit 2 hours before everybody else. That's just me. But I think on some of these, like when an artist sets an insane amount of money to meet them, I don't know. It's tough because you have to look at the band's perspective. If they offered it for $100, well, there's going to be 500 people who want it. It's going to sell out in 2 seconds. People are going to be reselling them. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be sketchy. Who knows? It's the old supply and demand type of thing. So if you get to that level, it's kind of going to be up to you. Do you want to be meeting people before the show? Are you even at the venue that early? Is it worth it? I mean, I feel like if I was that famous, I would still probably try to make it somewhat reasonable. And maybe at minimum, it would pay for like my homie to be out on tour with me or like my security guard or something just to make sure it like goes back to the crew or something. Because yeah, once you get to a certain level, it's like $600 means nothing to some of these people. It's not worth their time. So I don't know, man. If you think about that window of, it's just fascinating. Like starting out, nobody wants to meet you. And then if you really, really make it, everybody wants to meet you. And it's just from $0 to what we've seen, $5,000-10,000 just for an interaction. I mean, it's really kind of crazy. So I don't know. I mean, what is the most that you would be comfortable throwing down to meet like your favorite person in the world? I would struggle to go above, I don't know. I feel like even above 500 is just way too much. I mean, that's just, for me personally, everybody's circumstances are different. But I remember paying, I don't know what that big Blink hangout was in 2017-ish. I feel like it was like $400 or $500. And that was a lot. I remember like selling a bunch of shit, just trying to come up with the change to do that. And yeah, it was amazing. Like it was the coolest shit ever. One of my favorite memories ever. But I think when you start getting into thousands and thousands of dollars, I'm like, God damn, I should be putting that money into like my kid's future college fund or something. I don't know. Let's talk about the fans' perspective. So from our perspective, if you are going to one of these or in the market to one of these, what's it like? The pros, the cons, expectations. Should you do these? Is it worth the money? My take on this is I think you know probably right away whether this will be for you or not. So when I talk to people about these, immediately people will have a side, and whatever you choose is what you choose. Doesn't make too much of a difference to me. But if straight out of the gate, you know that, oh my gosh, I would never pay to meet somebody, well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this isn't for you. You're probably not going to enjoy these. You should probably spend your money elsewhere, save your money. If you're of the opinion that, oh, it's just a superficial fake transaction, they don't want to meet you, blah, blah, blah. My take, once again, is trust your gut. You probably know right away this isn't for you. And that's fine. If that's how you feel about it, that is fine. My perspective on these is that, A, it supports the bands. For all of the levels we just talked about, 98% of those, this money will help. That top 1 or 2% where it's $5,000 and they don't even want to come meet you and the whole band doesn't want to come meet you and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that money's not going as far. They probably don't need it. But for the most part, when you do these, it is a very direct form of money to the band. So I like that. I have no problem with that. My other take on this is I love these. Like, to me, to guarantee a meeting with a band, not have to stand out front praying that they're in line with you at Starbucks, not have to hang out by the bus. Those days are long gone for me. I'm not waiting late. I'm not hanging out by a bus awkwardly hoping somebody comes out. I would very much prefer to pay for a guaranteed formal setting, say hey, get your picture, get your stuff signed, make a rad day out of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Is it a transaction? Yeah, to some extent. I know that's probably not the best way to think about it, but the more I think about it, it's like a lot of things are transactions. A transaction isn't necessarily bad. And again, if it's just paying for the human interaction aspect of it, I know for sure a lot of bands from their VIP perspective, they're not necessarily in their mind charging you to meet them. A lot of times the VIP price just covers like the cool shit that comes with it. And then they're there to say hey and hang for a bit and take some pictures and sign some stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily think about it as you're paying to meet somebody. If it's a full-blown package, that type of thing. I mean, even it's tough to kind of liken this to other scenarios because the other things that have just completely blown up in the past 15 years, really alongside this is like the cons and the paid signings and like autograph signings and that type of thing. And it's like, these are incredibly popular. There's lines of people out the door. The pre-sales have sold out like crazy for, main acts or whoever you want to go meet. Tickets are consistently rising on these because of demand. Now, some of that has to do with flippers and eBay and people get weird about that, but that's a whole other episode. So I don't know. It's kind of hit and miss because I can see both sides of this. Like, I feel like if I mentioned VIP to like my dad or somebody from that generation, they'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind paying $200 to go hang out before a show and try to meet somebody and get your little poster signed. You know, what is wrong with you? For me, if I think about just like a perfect day, like if I'm putting in for PTO on Friday and I'm going to see a band, to me, I want to show up at 2:00, see sound check, hear sound check. I guess in theory, you're hopefully doing both. Get to say hey to the band, get a photo, get something signed, you know, go grab a drink before the show, go to the show, and just have the best day ever. You know, to me, that's like a perfect day. If the first chunk of that sounds awful to you, then don't do it. You're probably going to hate it. Save your money, you know, spend it on something else. But I don't think there necessarily has to be a negative aspect of the transaction, because it's just so common these days. I just really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think one of the most important things that comes into play with these is the cost. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, your financial situation and what you're willing to throw down on is completely up to you. It will vary by every person listening to this. For some people, if it's $100 and the ticket to get in is 60, well, that's absurd. You know, if it's 500 plus, I mean, there's no chance I'm paying that. So it just kind of depends. I mean, ultimately, at this stage in our lives, your life, I mean, is it worth it to miss out on something over $100? I mean, as my friend Davey says, $100 is like a couple dinners. Typically, I mean, today at this point, if you go out to eat and tip your 20%. So I don't know. I'm always of the opinion to where it's like, if there's something you really want to do and there's somebody you really want to meet, do it. You know, like the Blink stuff that I went to, it's one of my favorite memories. And I went out of my way to like scrounge up money to do those. I don't regret it at all. I thought it was awesome. It never crossed my mind while I was there that like, oh, this is such a weird transaction. Where's the cashier to ring me up? So if there's somebody whose music has meant anything to you and you listen to them all the time and you want to support them, or you just want to meet them, or you just want to fist bump them, shake their hand and tell them that their music has meant the world to you, then I think you should absolutely go out of your way to go do one of these and say hey and support them and support the band. The money in general probably goes to the whole operation. You know, it's not like when you pay for a VIP package, it goes right in the lead singer's pocket for cigarettes. You know, it goes to the band as a whole. The cost of all of this shit is just through the roof these days, as far as touring and just buses and bus fees and hotel. I mean, there's just so much that goes into a band and a touring band, that any chance that you get to help support a band in any way, I am all for. And I think at the end of the day, it's typically a win-win, both for the artist and for the fans. Now, obviously, you want to come out of that feeling good about the money you spent, about the time you had, about the experience you had. That may not always be the case. I mean, I've seen horror stories of artists not even looking at you, or signings where people don't even look up. I mean, there's examples left and right of when this goes well and when it's awful. And obviously when it's awful and you paid $100 or any amount of money, you know, it sucks. But I think the other part of this that you just have to keep in mind is that for the band, I mean, they are meeting a lot of people. And this is going to tie into the expectations that maybe you should have, because I've seen both sides of this, and this is where it's kind of interesting. And the older I get, and as I've worked like autograph signings, and I've helped walk talent around to meet 100 people and have people running at you, and even me as the non-famous person just trying to stand there basically as a handler, it's weird and it's awkward. People flying at you, everybody wants something. It can almost cause like a really weird form of anxiety and panic. And this is what a lot of folks like this deal with constantly. And that's where I just can't fathom at a certain level of fame where it's just that no matter where you go. And particularly with cell phones and these days with everything being recorded everywhere, it's like, I just saw a clip the other day of Tom DeLonge at Coachella. And I'm like, my God, I mean, yeah, I guess in his mind, he probably knows he's going to be filmed or somebody's going to make a clip. But it's like, dude can't even just like casually walk to the bathroom without like 5 people recording him. I see shit all the time of like John Cena, like fans running up to him, trying to film him. He's just like drinking coffee. I'm just like, man, I don't know how a lot of people deal with that level of it. But I think the thing as fans that we always have to keep in mind is, yes, for you, it is what you are traveling for. And it's a moment that you have built up perhaps in your mind or looking forward to or couldn't be more stoked to do. And the reality of it is that particular day, I mean, you're a stranger, you know, they don't know you. So that's one of the things that's just kind of awkward about meeting somebody that you've listened to for 20 years or you've watched on TV or you've admired or looked up to or whatever, is you kind of feel like you know them. And it's kind of weird as humans to realize that you really don't. You know, maybe what they are on TV or what they've put out. You know, perhaps you think you can relate to them or make a quick joke in passing, or you just want to share a quick story with them or something. It's difficult. When you're in these situations from the talent's perspective, or from the band's perspective, I mean, literally, they're like rolling up to a venue. Who knows if they slept well? They're rolling up at 2:00. It's another day. They don't know where they are. There's 50 strangers staring at them to do like a sound check. Then you're scrambled down. You're supposed to say hi real quick. You're obviously trying to put a smile on. You're trying to make everybody feel super special. You want to listen. You also have to keep in mind there's probably 25 to 100 people that you have to get to. You're trying to give everybody a fair amount of time. You've got management yelling at you that you need to hurry up. You know, you've got one band member who has to take a piss, trying to tell everybody to hurry up. You know, it's just, there's so many different variables at these things. And it's hard to understand from the fans' perspective, I guess, that it's just like another day at the office for them, for lack of a better term. And I know that can curb your expectations at times. And it's hard because I've been bummed at a meet and greet before and it sucked. Like, I don't want people to feel that way. And if you've traveled or you're showing up to a show early and you're super stoked and you've paid your hard-earned $100 or $500 or $5,000, you know, whatever you've paid, you obviously don't want to come away from that feeling bad. You know, if you buy a $20 slice of pizza and it sucks, you're still going to be mad, regardless of what the transaction is. If you pay for something or you have an expectation of something or just a hope and you get let down, like, nobody wants to feel that way, you know? And I know the bands are not there intentionally just to like make people feel shitty, you know? So it's hard at times not to take stuff personal if you have one of these. I think the key for expectations for me is going to be in the details. So my only gripe I have ever had with VIP stuff is when the listed items are not accurate or just not laid out correctly. I mean, a lot of times it's just like a VIP company or probably just like a manager who sent over what's going to take place. And it may not be lined out with exactly what it includes. And to me, that is where my gripe is always with the VIP. I think it needs to be clear as day what is included and oftentimes what is not. To me, sometimes the not is damn near more important than what is included. So, for instance, if it lists photo op, which is a very common thing, I think this is something that absolutely needs to be included with a VIP package. It needs to list, is this a group VIP picture or is this an individual photo op? That is the difference between you getting a cool selfie with somebody, or just, you and that person or artist or band, or you and 100 other strangers you'll never see again standing with the band in a big group from 100 feet away. I think group photos are kind of silly. I have a couple. Don't even look at them. Don't care about them. I understand this is where, again, you have to think through the logistics from the band's perspective, from the management perspective, from the time perspective. A single photo op, let's say each takes 30 seconds, well, that shit adds up. A group photo, the whole thing could be done in 30 seconds. The band may only have 45 minutes to an hour right after sound check where they need to go chill for a bit, eat dinner, get ready to play the gig in a couple hours. So you just kind of have to be mindful of that. So one of the keys for me is, like, if you're expecting a photo op, you need to know if it's a group photo or an individual photo. If it does not list that a photo op is available, that's where I get kind of pissed, because I'm like, okay, I guess you just take it for what it's worth and you're not going to get a photo op at all. I think throwing down $100 to $300 for the chance at some of this stuff is kind of silly. So to me, it's just like, it needs to say exactly what it includes. One of the biggest things for me, and this is just me being a nerd, is, can you get something signed? So I think bands should absolutely allow you to bring at least one item, maybe limit it to 2. I don't think anybody needs more than 3. But just lay it out clear as day. Can you bring your own item to be signed? Or if you want to be even more generic about it, just say includes one signed item. You can either bring an item, or they will provide like a poster or something like that. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Includes one signed item. You can bring your own. But for me, if you're paying for a meet and greet and you show up and you've brought your favorite album that means the world to you, and the band really can't sign it, like, to me, that's where it sucks. Now, again, it's a timing thing. So now they've got to go through, not only hear your life story about them, then they've got to take a picture, and then they've got to sign your item. So, I mean, even if you're flying, you're talking a minute per person. So 60 people show up, that's an hour. So it just kind of comes down to timing. But again, clear as day for me is, okay, can you bring an item to be signed? If the answer is no, state that. Just put on there, no extra items will be signed. It's not that hard. Or if you're a band, and you don't want to do that, then what a lot of folks do, which makes sense, and this part I get and at least appreciate, is include a signed item. So a lot of bands will just include a signed poster. They're pre-signed. They sign them in the green room before the VIP or earlier that day, or maybe even before they even went out on tour, and they're just in boxes that the VIP people pull out, and they hand you one. And at least at that point, you have like a rad, unique signed poster or item. But for me personally, because I like signed shit, because I like the timestamp of it and the historical aspect of it, to me, that's very important. So if I'm looking at a VIP and I can't get a photo or a signed item, you kind of lost me almost immediately, because to me, it's like, those are the two biggest memories that I would get out of it. Just keeping in mind everybody else. I think it's tough at times. And when you get in front of these people, I mean, these are people that you've looked up to, you've seen on TV, they've been in your ears, on your headphones for 20 years. You kind of go into like almost a different form of yourself. You get giddy and weird, and time freezes, and it's awkward. And, I understand that it's obviously a big deal for a lot of folks. That's why you're shelling out that much dough for the moment. But you kind of have to keep in mind that there's, 25 to 50 other people who are trying to get through the line. So just something to be mindful of. I think that's just a basic human decency. Being kind, don't take up 5 minutes, giving them each a gift, telling them a story, showing them all 25 of your tattoos, FaceTiming your mom to show them. That's one thing that I've noticed has been a thing lately, is people will have people on FaceTime either at a show or at a VIP, and they're like, well, can you say hi to my mom real quick? I'm like, your mom is at home watching Grey's Anatomy. You think she gives a fuck about FaceTiming this artist you're in front of for 20 seconds. And then if you're at the concert, like, can they even hear? It's chaos. I don't know. I don't like that. I think the price of this stuff matters. I mean, obviously, the more you pay, you probably have a little bit higher expectations. I mean, I'll share, I think the experience that kind of bummed me out the most was Tomlin, surprisingly. And it was an Angels and Airwaves meet and greet. And I feel like I want to say I paid like $400 to $500 for my wife and I to go to an Angels meet and greet. And really the only thing that I wanted out of it is I had a vinyl sign. I have Take Off Your Pants and Jacket vinyl signed by Mark and Travis. And all I wanted was Tom's signature. That was it. And it was not listed on the VIP. They wouldn't be signing anything. I think it was pitched as like more or less like a longer meet and greet. And I mean, for the price of that, I think it was like $250 per person. I'd have to go back and look, but it was up there. To me, I was expecting more of an actual kind of meet and greet. And when I got there, it was a photo op. To me, that's a big difference. To me, that was the detail was not there in the description that I would have liked, because if it was just a photo op and it said no items will be signed, I wouldn't have paid $500 for it. So when I went to that, and I was so pumped for it, stoked for it, I've been waiting to complete this album being signed, my favorite album in the world, being signed by all three. Show up, it's the only fucking thing I want, and basically it's like, nope, not signing. And I'm like, okay, I struggled to understand. I mean, there was like 20 of us. It's not like there was a massive group of people. And I really struggled at the time and was bummed. Like, you know, I felt rightfully so. Now, that could just be all in my head. But whether or not you come out of an experience bummed or feeling great, you know, that's up to you or how it went, I suppose. But to me, I left that one like, man, what the fuck? Like, you really couldn't scribble on my vinyl for half a second. You know, it'd be different if I had a stack of things, or, you know, I saw people take way more time with Tom than I did. Like, I would have taken literally 2 seconds, and I saw people standing there for 2 or 3 minutes. And that's where it's just frustrating. It was frustrating from my perspective, where it's like, okay, I don't understand. I guess in general, setting the expectation in the details is my biggest gripe with any VIP package. And so that's an example of where, yeah, I didn't come out of that super stoked. Now, do I get it? Yeah, of course. I understand. If you sign for me, then you've got to sign for everybody. But that's not where my beef lied on that particular one. Now, it's all fine. I ended up getting the album signed at a later time. It's all a good story. But it's just an example, you know, that's just mine. And that's where I think I might end up opening up an episode to kind of hear your experiences and if it went well, if it went great. I mean, I don't think I've ever had another meet and greet experience that was like, that truly like left me feeling like bummed or just like a poor taste in my mouth. You know, I've been to autograph signings where people just hardly even look up, but I feel like an autograph signing is a little bit different because there's literally a line of 100 people, hundreds of people, and you're just trying to get through and get your shit signed as quick as possible. They don't want to hear it. You know, it's just like, sign your item, move on. So yeah, it's just, to me, the expectation, it's not so much that it's in your mind. I feel like the expectation should be set by the promoter or the VIP handler or in the ticket description, as opposed to you having to conjure up something in your mind of how you think it might go, only to be let down. So the key there is like photo op versus a meet and greet. You know, I think at a certain point, if you're paying $250 plus for a medium to somewhat larger level band, it's like, yeah, hopefully, surely to God, you can get like something signed, get an individual photo, that type of thing. But even that, I mean, older, wiser, looking at these now with just what I've seen by attending these and working them, it's just like, I don't know. I don't think anybody should really feel super bummed and personal coming out of these which I know is hard because in our own minds, we're our own little world. But I think for the most part, I don't know of any band that's just like doing these to try and make you mad, to leave you bummed. I think to some extent you have to realize that they're all humans just like us. This is part of their job. I mean, the reality is a lot of these band members, they may not even have signed up for this or wanted to do it. It was just put together by the manager or by the touring package. And they're showing up, they're putting on a smile, and they're going to go back to their bunk and fucking play Nintendo, So it's tough. I get it, but we're all humans. We all have some sort of emotional attachment, typically to somebody that you're willing to shell out money to interact with in some capacity. But yeah, I don't want anybody to feel let down by these. And ultimately, I don't necessarily put the blame on us per se. I think realistically, you just have to understand that there's not going to be a lot of time. I mean, unless it's detailed that you have a hangout session with the band or something like that, and there's like 10 tickets sold. I think for the most part, you should hope that you can say, hey, if you have something you've always wanted to share with them, or a memory or a tattoo, keep it brief, minute, maybe two, and kind of keep it moving. I mean, thinking back to the MXPX example, because this is where I do think the price and the setting needs to be taken into play. I mean, MXPX, theirs was a free meet and greet after the show. So even the fact that they're coming off stage and basically heading directly to merch to hang out after just performing and being in town all day, they need to be somewhere in the morning. I mean, that's crazy enough. Super kind of them to be hanging out for free at their level, to say hey, to take pictures, to sign whatever you want. I mean, the one I went to, if you bought, I mean, even people even brought shit in, but no matter what you had, they were signing. So to me, that is beyond kind. And understanding that there's a lot of people to get through. I don't think in that scenario you can expect several minutes of someone's time and to be able to tell like a whole story or a super personal thing. But, if that's your first meet and greet, or you're not used to these or whatever, I could understand folks being let down, or maybe you just, in your mind, you had it going a different way, and it sucks. I hate it when anybody feels bad about any interaction. And if there's anything that I've tried to learn throughout the years, it's like, just try not to take it super personal. I mean, hell, I've had people who were like assholes to me when I was younger that I'm like friends with now, and they don't even like remember that. It's not like they're just set out. There's different things, think about your day. Think about like, if something shitty happened at work or with your family, or if you were up all night or slept like shit, or you're sick, or your kids are yelling at you and you're just stressed, and all of a sudden you have to put on a smiley face and go be, super happy and meet 100 people. And, it's just kind of, I don't know. You have to have empathy for their side of things. And I think for the most part, they probably do their best to try and make us feel special. But it is kind of what it is. I think to sort of start wrapping this up a little bit, I'm kind of shocked I'm babbling about this as long as I have, but it's an interesting topic. It really is, even just down to its core. I want to hit on a couple examples. These are real life examples at 2 VIP packages. I won't mention the bands, but I just want to list here. These are 2 real life examples. And from my perspective, just looking at these, like, is it fair? And so the first one here, this is for $100 as an add-on. And I do think that's kind of wise. I think at this point in time, what I prefer is an add-on standalone VIP. That's another thing that I've seen pop up somewhat recently. It used to kind of be all-inclusive. It includes your ticket. Well, then you open up a rabbit hole of like, okay, if it includes a seat, I don't want a seat. I want to be in the pit. Or for some people, it includes a pit ticket. They don't want a fucking pit ticket. They want to be in the 6th row on the aisle. So I think offering it as a standalone upgrade makes the most sense. So this particular one is $100. and includes a meet and greet, an individual photo, a signed skate deck, a VIP souvenir, and a laminate. So to me, this is a great example of a fair price. So I think $100, like I feel like if you're going to offer VIP and even deal with it, it probably needs to be between, for most bands, $50 to $150 as a standalone add-on. I mean, I feel like that's the expectation at this point in time. Obviously some folks have way higher than that. That's where it starts to get a little crazy. But I think just in its most basic form, I would expect any type of VIP to probably be between, really probably 75 to 150, but between 50 and $150. So right away, price point wise, I think $100 is fair. It states clear as day, includes a meet and greet. So right there, you get to meet the band. You're meeting and greeting. So in its root form, you're meeting them, you're greeting. Greeting is like, hi, hello, what's up, how you doing? Wouldn't expect a ton more than that, but at least the guaranteed, ability to say hey to this particular band. Individual photo. So it lists clear as day there, individual photo. That means it is you and the band, which is what most people probably want. Certainly what I would want. You get a signed skate deck. So the fact that it's a skate deck, I mean, most skate decks I see are $60 to $75 alone. So, I mean, if you factor that into the cost of the $100 VIP package, I mean, it's damn near pays for the package. Then the band is signing it, which is sick. So right away, I mean, that is more than fair, in my opinion. You get some sort of souvenir. Don't know what it is yet. I do find that kind of funny on a lot of these packages these days where it's like VIP mystery item. I'm like, what's a mystery item? We could be talking a sucker, a t-shirt. I mean, what's coming with this here? I think the reality of some of these is that they probably don't know it at the time of the package going on sale. You would hope that would be something cool, but usually the souvenir is kind of like a $5 to maybe $15 little add-on. And then the laminate. I do think the laminate is important. Little VIP lanyard. People like keeping those. People like rocking those. So to me, this is a really good example of one that I find more than fair. I think the detail is lined out basically exactly to how I would want it. My question here would be, are you able to get something else signed? That's just me being a nerd. Most people probably don't think about that. But the fact that this comes with a signed skate deck alone means I would leave that more than stoked, even if I couldn't get my favorite little jewel case signed. Another example. This is one that I actually have question marks on. So I was looking at attending this show. I was looking at supporting this band, and this is the first time they have offered a formal VIP. So going back to what we talked about earlier, this is a band that, for the most part was playing smaller shows. They're growing. They're finally at a point where they can, probably choose to make their own VIP packages if they want. Some folks at this level may not. They are. And what this includes is an acoustic performance, a signed poster, a laminate, a tote bag, and early access to merch. Now this one is $108, and the acoustic performance, like, that's rad. It doesn't really note how many songs, so that would be kind of one of my questions. I mean, typically VIP acoustic performances are like 1 to 3 songs. That's something that if I was building this, I would lay out probably a little bit more clear, just so people don't have a weird expectation. Somebody could see this and think that that's a 30-45 minute concert, and then if you show up and they play one song, you might be bummed or think it was a ripoff or false advertising or something. Who knows? The signed poster is nice. The laminate is nice. The tote bag, those are, that's kind of hit and miss for me personally. It's fine, I think, if you're going to buy some shit and be able to hold it, I guess. Early access to merch, I can go either way on this. I don't mind too much running by merch during the show. I hate holding merch the whole show, just like a lot of folks probably do. Maybe that's why you're getting the tote bag to keep it in. One of the things that I wish more folks would note is whether or not you have the ability to run this shit to your car before the show and doors actually open, because that is super important to me. Like, if you're going to have early access, if you're going to be there early in the day, can you leave and line back up? The reality of that is it varies typically by venue. So that's probably why it's not listed clear as day, because dependent on the venue and their policies, it'll vary. And I've had some where you can, I've had some where you can't. You have to fucking check it or just hold it the whole show, which can suck. But for me, of these two, like if I had to pick one of these right away, I would do the one that guarantees the photo op, guarantees the skate deck. It's actually cheaper. My question with this one for $108 would be, do you even get to meet the band? So, and ironically, this is a smaller band than the one that we're talking about with the skate deck. So it's just kind of interesting because these tickets alone to the show, I believe, are like $40. So from my perspective, and I'd be curious to hear yours, but I'm like, okay, so a ticket to the hour and a half show is $40. I can pay $108 for VIP. And at that point, the value there for me would be, okay, maybe a 3-song acoustic performance and the signed poster. So you kind of have to just think about, okay, is that worth $108 to you? I don't know. My question with this, I mean, obviously I want to support them, but my question with this would be like, okay, do you even get to meet the band? My assumption would be no. Otherwise it would be listed. But if you can't get a photo with the band, I mean, is there any interaction to where you could get an album signed or something like that? This is one to where it's like, I don't know that I would go for this one because the show itself is $40. So you're paying 3 times the show cost, and you don't even know for sure if you get to meet the band or even say, hey, and you would probably assume not. So I don't know. It's interesting. This is, again, where the detail is key to me. And I think one of the more important lines that I've seen of late is typically added to the bottom, clear as day, there is no artist interaction with this VIP package. And I think if that is the case, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if they don't want to, they're not comfortable, just not going to happen, wasn't agreed upon, blah, 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 whatever it is, I think it needs to list that clear as day so that you don't have the wrong expectation going into that. Now, that's just me. But yeah, I think those are two, pretty good real life examples that are active right now. I mean, bands getting ready to go on tour that I'm on the fence about. And we've kind of talked through, I guess, maybe what I'm expecting out of it versus what's actually listed, whether or not it would be worth it per se. Kind of comes down to you and your preference. I think coming into like the high level stuff, to me, when you're charging the $350 plus and there's no artist interaction, the big thing now is like the drink tokens and like the VIP host. It's like, what the fuck is a VIP host? Like, they're like bringing you a drink or something, or like helping you to your area. I see that listed all the time. I'm like, that means nothing to me. Like, I can walk to the fucking bar and get chips and my drink, especially if it's in a VIP setting where there's 50 people there. It's not like there's a massive line or group of people. The lounges, I get it to some extent. The food ones, it's like, I don't go to a concert to fucking eat. So to me, that's not a big selling point. I like some where it's basically museums, like Blink did a museum. So, if you want to get there early and get the lanyard and get the museum and the drink tokens, I don't think theirs was that bad. It was probably around that 250, 300 range or something. For me, like if it was a random band or something, I'm never paying that. Just for something with no artist access, no sound check. I think Blink's included a VIP gift, which I think ended up being those signed posters, which was worth it for folks who threw down on that. So it just kind of varies. I mean, I see some where folks will have like side stage access for the first 3 songs. I mean, that's amazing. I think that's super smart to do. I see some where you get a tour before the show on stage with the guitar tech or something like that. I mean, to me, just very unique, rad experiences like that. I mean, set the price at what it's worth for you and what you have to pay your tech or your band or your management or whatever. And if folks want to do it, they can do it. There's one I saw the other day for, I know John 5 was offering one. I know Lamb of God, they have a new album I've been ripping. They have some very unique VIP packages in that you can buy basically a guitar, a one-of-one guitar for that particular show that they will play. And I think you get a meet and greet and you get it signed. Now those are like $1,000, but the guitar cost is included in that. And there's one per show. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, throw that out there. If somebody bites, they bite. And if they're a hardcore fan and you have a unique item like that, I mean, incredible piece of history for somebody to play that on stage and meet them after and sign it. Like, that's fucking awesome. If you're a huge fan and can throw down on that, like if Blink did that, oh my God, they could charge 10,000 per guitar and they would sell one per show. So I don't think there's harm, no matter what level of band you are. I think the cost is kind of relative, and I understand at a certain point it almost has to be high because of the demand, because of the artist time. I think some of it just kind of it's just borderline tacky. Like, I think when you get into WWE making pasta with somebody for 10 G's, like, come on, like, yeah, maybe that helps pay an intern's salary for the year for the company, but like, I don't know, man. Like, just the bad PR that would come out of that, or just the fucking corniness of it, to me is like, I would never offer that. I think from a band's perspective, especially if you're a touring band and that money goes a long way, come up with something creative. I think there's so much room to grow, I think, for collectibles within the music industry. So I think offering unique experiences like that, or, like a used drum head from the show, or the used guitar, or signed set list. And people do it. It's just a matter of kind of getting everybody on board with what you and your band would be comfortable offering. And again, if it's not something that you want to charge people to meet you, then put together a rad package of merch that in your mind is worth $50 and come out and say hey and meet your fans. My thing is, really, at the end of the day, to, I guess, kind of give my final thoughts on this. From the band's perspective, it's going to be up to you guys. If you're a band and this money will help you and you have a fan base that is obviously willing to support you and throw down, and you can do something cool about it and be able to help pay some bills or pay your sound guy and shit like that, I think it's kind of silly not to. I think if the paying to meet you aspect bothers you, there's different ways to go about it. Like I said, cover it with whatever merch comes with it. Come say hey. I just think when you're in a situation where people want to meet you like that, and it's not like if you do this, you have to suddenly not be available outside the venue for free. It's like, yeah, you can still meet people before the show. You can still hang out by the bus and say hey to fans. But when there's a group of fans willing to support you, I think it's kind of foolish to turn the money down if you need it, and if it will help you. So spin it however you wish. I think from the fans' perspective, it comes down to you and what you're comfortable spending. Like I said, if straight out of the gate, this isn't for you and you would never pay that and it's dumb and you don't want to pay for a transaction and a fake 2-second interaction, then don't do it. Don't do it. It's not going to be for you. You're not going to be stoked about it. I do think if it's an artist or somebody you've always wanted to meet who's meant a lot to you, and, the reality is, like, especially the older I get, I'm like, I get maybe like 4 or 5 like really cool fucking days, like a year, to like go out of town and see a band and like, excuse me, do something that rad. So you might be willing to throw down a little bit more when you don't get to do that very often or get out of town. You know, a lot of people don't ever get to travel or fly out of town for a show or, you know, be able to do that. Or maybe the band just never comes near you and it's once every 5 years or it lines up. So I wouldn't miss out on something like that over $100 or a couple $100, you know, even if you're on the fence about it or you're not sure if you should do it. My opinion would be do it. YOLO, go for it. Even if at the end of the day, even if somehow you don't feel that it went as it should, or you were a little bit let down, I think you could probably find peace with the fact that you helped the band or the crew or somebody in some capacity with the money that you threw down. I think to end it, I would say this: don't take it too personal if something doesn't go the way it does. Doesn't mean somebody hates you, doesn't mean they don't want to give you the time of day, don't care about you as a fan. They're people too. The reality is they've met a lot of people probably on that tour. They've probably met a lot of people that day. And try not to take it too personal. And believe me, I get it. I've been bummed. It sucks. I never want to see people bummed. But for the most part, I just love supporting an artist and people who are talented, just trying to make a hard-earned living doing rad shit. And I think the option to pay for a guaranteed meet and greet or guaranteed autograph, to me, is well worth it, especially at this point in my life. I'm not waiting after the venue by the bus forever. I don't want to bother people. I would much rather pay for a guaranteed setting, knowing that it's a transaction, not caring, and be able to get, hopefully, what you want out of it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I think I might end up opening up the phone lines. I don't know if it'll be the next episode, but at some point in the future, may open up the phone lines. We'll see if we can get some VIP meet and greet stories. Hopefully not horror stories, but we'll see if it lived up to your expectation. Was it great? Did they go above and beyond? I mean, my God, in this episode, I didn't even get to the Blink meet and greets I've done and just tons of meet and greets I've done throughout the years. Like I said, for the most part, almost always great. So yeah, get out there, support a band, try not to be bummed if it sucks. And that's kind of my thoughts on meet and greets. All right, enjoyed it. We will talk again very soon. Thanks.